He had never known hunger, but he feared it like death. In a peaceful village tucked between green hills and winding streams lived a dog named Bruno. Strong legs, sharp ears, and a thick, shiny coat. He was admired by some, envied by others. But behind those proud eyes was a restlessness that never slept. Bruno had everything a dog could wish for: a warm shelter, fresh food twice a day, and even children who played with him every evening. But it wasn't enough. It never was. If he got one treat, he craved two. If he had a bowl full of meat, he would glance suspiciously at the neighbor's bowl. If a dog got praise for helping an old lady cross the street, Bruno would sulk, wishing the praise was his. He didn't just want more, he wanted all. One summer morning, Bruno found a massive bone lying near the butcher's waste bin, bigger than anything he'd ever seen, thick, juicy, marbled with bits of meat. It was like a trophy handed down from the heavens. He snatched it up, proud and thrilled, and ran off toward the riverside, where he could enjoy it away from other eyes. The sun was bright, the breeze cool, and Bruno trotted across the wooden bridge that arched over the glistening stream. Birds flew overhead. The world seemed perfect. Then he looked down. Below the bridge, in the calm mirror of the water, he saw another dog, another bone. Bruno froze. The dog below was staring up at him, standing firm, with a bone clutched tightly in its mouth, just like his. For a heartbeat, Bruno blinked. Is that dog mocking me? Does he have a bigger bone? His pulse quickened. He leaned forward. The dog leaned forward too. The bone below looked just as big, maybe bigger. Bruno's greedy mind twisted the image into threat and temptation. I must have it, he thought. Without thinking, without pause and consider, Bruno opened his mouth to bark, or perhaps to snatch. And in that split second, his bone dropped, straight into the water. Gone. Vanished into the depth of the river with a small, heartbreaking splash. The reflection? Just that, a reflection. The dog in the water? Himself. Bruno stood there in stunned silence, watching the ripples erase his mistake. His eyes wide, jaw trembling, not from hunger, but from realization. He had everything. He lost at chasing an illusion. And for the first time in his life, Bruno felt something new. Not hunger, not loss, but the bitter taste of wanting too much and ending with nothing. In a small village surrounded by hills and forests, there lived a dog named Bruno. He wasn't hungry in the way strays were. He had a home, a nice one, a shaded tree to rest under, children who laughed when he chased his tail, and food placed in a clean bowl every morning and evening. No chains, no threats, no cold nights. Most dogs would have called it a perfect life. But Bruno wasn't most dogs. He didn't just want food. He wanted the biggest meal. He didn't just want comfort. He wanted control. If he had a juicy bone, his eyes were still on the next one. If he had peace, he longed for pride. There was always something more, always something better. And if he didn't have it, he felt like he had nothing at all. The village dogs knew him well. That's Bruno, they'd say, the one who eats fast, snatches faster, and still walks away unsatisfied. When other dogs played, Bruno watched, not with joy but suspicion, convinced someone had something he didn't. When others shared a loaf of bread, Bruno would sneak behind them and grab an extra bite, even if he wasn't hungry. He had everything, yet he felt poor. Greed is a strange hunger. It doesn't live in the stomach. It lives in the heart, in a space where satisfaction should be. One bright morning, Bruno's luck brought him something special. Behind the butcher's shop, where the scraps were tossed, lay a massive bone, rich with meat, soaked in flavor, still warm. Bruno's eyes lit up like fire. No other dog had seen it. It was his. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed it in his mouth and ran, tail high, heart pounding with victory. He had never had a bone this big, this full, this perfect. Finally, he thought, this will silence the hunger. But hunger doesn't listen, especially when it comes from greed. As he trotted toward the river, where he planned to enjoy the bone in peace, he imagined how others would look at him, jealous, envious, admiring. The other dogs would be ashamed of their tiny scraps. Let them watch, he thought. Let them wish. The river was calm that morning. The sun floated gently above, casting silver light across the water. As Bruno walked over the wooden bridge, he happened to glance down, and there, in the water, another dog, a big one, with a bone. Bruno froze mid-step. The dog below stood still, holding a bone of equal size, maybe even bigger. It mirrored his movement, his pace, his grip. Bruno didn't think. He reacted. In his heart, a voice whispered, "Take it. Take that one too. Yours is great. Yes, but look at his. You deserve both." He barked. The dog barked back. He growled. The dog growled back. It was a challenge. Bruno had earned his bone, sure, but this was greed's game. Logic faded. Desire spoke. The bone below might be better. It might taste richer. It might be more. And so Bruno leaped. He opened his mouth to bark louder, to grab, to lunge, to possess the other dog's bone. But the moment he opened his jaws, the bone he held slipped free. With a soft, final thud, it dropped into the river, into the current. Gone. The ripples spread. The reflection vanished. The water calmed. And Bruno had nothing. He stared into the water, mouth half open, stunned. The truth hit him not like thunder, but like silence. There was no other dog. There was no better bone. He had it all, and he threw it away for a shadow. That was the day Bruno stopped chasing. He didn't starve. He wasn't punished. But something inside him broke and rebuilt. He began to eat slower, share more, look at what was in front of him, rather than what might be just out of reach. For the first time, he sat with what he had, and it was enough. Because sometimes the hunger we feel isn't for more, it's for meaning. And no amount of more will ever feed that. The river kept flowing, quietly carrying Bruno's once precious bone to somewhere unknown, while he stood frozen on the bridge. Not because he was afraid, but because something within him had shifted. For the first time in his life, he wasn't angry. He wasn't blaming the reflection. He wasn't even blaming himself. He was simply still enough to finally see. All his life, Bruno had believed that the next bite, the next toy, the next victory would satisfy him. But the truth hit harder than the loss of the bone. He wasn't chasing food. He was chasing more. Always more. And in that chase, he had missed the joy of what he already had. Comfort, friends, safety, love. He thought having everything meant grabbing everything. Now he understood. Having everything offered means simply appreciating what you already hold. That day, Bruno didn't return to the butcher's bin to look for another bone. He walked back to the village, slower than usual, quieter than ever. He passed by the other dogs who were barking and play fighting, and for once, he didn't feel above them. He didn't feel like he had lost either. He just felt awake. A small puppy ran up to him with a half-chewed stick in its mouth, wagging its tail in joy. "Look what I found," the puppy barked excitedly. "Isn't it great?" Bruno looked at the stick, then at the puppy's eyes, sparkling with pure happiness. He smiled, not with envy, not with judgment, just a smile. "It is," Bruno said gently. "It really is." From that day onward, Bruno changed. The other dogs noticed at first when he didn't lunge for the biggest bowl or snatch the tastiest piece. He began to sit back, wait his turn, and even share. One rainy afternoon, a young stray shivered near the alley where Bruno once used to hide his treasures. Without thinking twice, Bruno gave up his shelter spot under the tree and stood in the rain while the pup rested. No one asked him to do it. No one praised him. But it filled him with something stronger than pride. Peace. He no longer needed to prove he was richer, luckier, or faster. He had stopped measuring life in how much he could hold. He began measuring it in how much he could give. Because the truth was simple. When greed ruled his heart, nothing was enough. But when gratitude took its place, even little things felt full. As time passed, Bruno became a quiet leader, not by command, but by example. Others followed not because he demanded it, but because he inspired it. And every now and then, when he passed by the old wooden bridge, he'd pause and look down into the river. He'd see his reflection, the way he once did. But this time, there was no growl, no jealousy, no desire. Just a soft look and a reminder that reflection wasn't another dog. It was a younger version of himself, lost in the illusion that more meant better. He'd smile, wag his tail, and whisper inwardly, "You had enough all along. You just couldn't see it." In a world that constantly teaches us to chase, to compete, to compare, Bruno learned the opposite. He learned that greed doesn't begin in the hands. It begins in the heart. And if left unchecked, it can make us blind to the treasures we already hold. His story became one that older dogs would tell the younger pups. There once was a dog who lost the biggest bone of his life chasing a shadow. But in losing it, he found something greater, contentment. And those who listened would nod thoughtfully, some even glancing at the river's edge, wondering if they too were chasing shadows. Because deep down, the moral never changed. And it never will. True richness isn't found in how much you gather, but in how deeply you value what you already have. Greed makes the heart hollow. Gratitude fills it. And those who learn the difference live fuller, kinder, and far more meaningful lives.